to mid-cycle redistricting. We were here about a month ago, dropped off almost 10,000 signatures, and over the past several weeks we have continued to communicate with Hoosiers who are opposed to mid-cycle redistricting. So therefore, we've doubled our numbers in opposition in about a month's time. And so we're here to ask the governor and leaders of the General Assembly to stop this tug of war between Hoosiers and insiders in Washington, D.C. who want us to break the rules and draw maps mid-cycle. We know that this is unpopular. There have been several polls that indicate Hoosiers of all political stripes are opposed to this. They understand exactly what it is, and it's trying to change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. They don't like that. That's not a Hoosier value. We play fair. There have also been polls showing how unpopular the politicians who are pushing this have become in our state. So we would ask Governor Braun and the leaders of the Indiana General Assembly to listen to Hoosiers. It's like we've got a couple pushy salesmen on our doorstep, and they've got a foot in the door and they don't want to leave. It's time to stop being polite. Quit putting them off. Just tell them no mid-cycle redistricting in Indiana. It doesn't work for our state. We're not going to participate in this game. So again, public opinion is behind us. They need to announce once and for all what's going to happen, and that announcement needs to be no special session for redistricting. I'll turn it over to Linda Hansen, the president of the League of Women Voters of Indiana.
Good morning. I want to say the League of Women Voters opposes mid-cycle redistricting for a variety of reasons. I mean, redistricting occurs following the census. The effort is to make sure that every voter has an equal say. And in this current environment, with the redistricting efforts across the country, we are seeing pressure put on our legislators to change the rules in Indiana. And we would oppose that because we're not looking at something that will actually reflect the voters in Indiana. When the maps were drawn following the 2020 census, we got two Democrats and 7 Republicans in our congressional delegation. Our statewide races have typically and most recently been 58% Republican, 42% Democrat. That is not what our congressional delegation looks like. And any effort to reduce the number of Democrats and increase the number of Republicans, which is what this redistricting mid-cycle would attempt to do, is a political opportunist ploy. This is not going to be responding to the needs of Hoosiers. We want our legislators to pay attention to what every Hoosier needs, and that is not simply more representatives of one party in Congress. So we would ask our legislators to pay attention to the polls and to the numbers of Hoosiers who have said in petitions and through our League Action Network, writing letters, over 1,500 specific letters, as well as the calls and the signatures on petitions. Do not give us recycling or redistricting in mid-cycle. We want every vote to count equally. Thank you.
Could you spell your first and last name again and your title?
Linda, Linda, Hansen, Hanson, and I'm the president of the State League of Women Voters of Indiana.
Hi, and Megan Robertson here with Indiana Conservation Voters. And, you know, it's really clear that Hoosiers have spoken, right? You see the polling numbers. We're now dropping off 20,000 signatures now that we've collected from folks who are opposing this, who have taken action, who are trying to let their legislators know, and the governor. It's just a little confusing why we're still talking about this. Governor Braun said very clearly he's going to listen to Hoosiers and he's going to listen to legislators, and that we don't need advice from Washington, D.C. Then why are we so focused on what Washington, D.C. is trying to tell us to do? Clearly, Hoosiers don't want this. When's the last time you saw a Republican governor that had the majority of Hoosiers saying our state's on the wrong track? That's a pretty staggering number. Then adding in the fact that all of these people have spoken up. We've had multiple visits from the Vice President of the United States to talk to our legislators. Some of them it was reported in the press that they had a conference call with President Trump. And they still haven't called a special session. It's because the legislators don't want to do it. It feels like the only person that is interested in this whatsoever are folks from Washington, D.C., and Governor Mike Braun, who seems to be interested in placating them. We don't need advice from Washington, D.C. on how to run Indiana. They can't even keep the federal government open. And just to add in, just these numbers are really pretty impressive, being over 20,000. When you think about that, the Indiana Pacers play in Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Their capacity is 18,000. So we could fill the entire Pacers Stadium like it was on playoffs with the line outside the door for 2,000 people wanting to watch outside, with the number of people who oppose redistricting. You look at cities in Indiana, Lebanon, fewer than 20,000 people. Greenfield, lower than 20,000 people. Frankfurt, there's lots of cities that we're talking about that they have more folks who have signed on and said, I don't want mid-cycle redistricting. I want you to focus on the things that impact my family every day, which are grocery store prices, utility prices, healthcare prices. We have bigger issues to focus on, and we just kind of are asking the governor, what's it going to take for you to listen to Hoosiers instead of DC politicians? And one last thing, the Emmons Auditorium at, I hope I'm saying that right, I did not go to IU. Emmons, thank
Ball
you.
State. It's at Ball State.
Never mind. Sorry, then I screwed up the name of the auditorium. The auditorium that Governor Braun's going to go speak to with Tucker Carlson tonight, it fits a lot less than 20,000 people. So again, I just want to illustrate how many people have taken action here and really just ask the question, what's it going to take for you to listen to us instead of Washington, D.C.?
Question. This kind of ties to the Supreme Court hearing that's had on Louisiana and their district that they drew. Have you guys folks taken that into account? Because what I'm hearing is that if they do call a special session, it'll be after November, after the Supreme Court issues its decision on redistricting. So how does that play into what you folks have going on? Or does it at all?
Well, clearly, racial gerrymandering and the decision out of Louisiana is going to impact all redistricting cases, and certainly ones that we fear would pack and crack black voters here in Indiana, particularly here in Indianapolis. But, it's an open question. We will wait and see what the courts decides. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act has been under attack for a number of years now, and so, Louisiana might be the case that takes it down, but the law is the law right now. And so we will have to wait and see what happens. But clearly, everybody concerned about redistricting is watching that case really closely.
I'll add to that because partisan redistricting has already been outlawed by the Supreme Court, or they've said it belongs to the states. So our pressure is on our state not to do this, to play fair for Hoosiers. And we'll see what happens with the current case. I mean, the league is in there opposing what they're talking about doing. So.
One thing, speaking about lawsuits, I believe Texas passed their maps a while ago, right? We're talking 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. They're just now going into the lawsuit phase and going into court.
Right.
In Indiana, if we're looking at doing this, we've got filing deadlines that are coming up just after the first of the year. And if they go ahead and pass these maps, even if they did it by Thanksgiving, you're talking about lawsuits that are going to be starting in December, January, when people are going to start looking to file for office and figure out if they want to run. And how can you even decide if you're going to run for office with, the mindset you should have if you don't even know what district you're in? So it's really, honestly, it's just really ridiculous that they're trying to get this in just before the bell to change the rules.
Right. It would throw our elections next year into chaos. And so that's just another reason not to do this. And we hope that our usually very cautious lawmakers will take that into account.
What do you make about the concern that some people have expressed that if Indiana doesn't do this, maybe they won't get as much funding or their phone calls returned from the federal government as quickly as possible?
Well, there's short-term damage and there's long-term damage. And so I would consider that kind of thing, retaliatory actions taken by the Trump administration to certainly be possible short-term damage. But the long-term damage that could be done to the political process here in Indiana if they do this is much more damaging, I think. So I look at it as sort of short-term versus long-term damage, and I think the long-term damage is much more corrosive for our state.
I would agree with that, and I hope that our legislators are looking at that rather than feeling as if they're under pressure for particular things that could be done right now. It is an effort to undermine a local rule. I mean, our legislators should be legislating over issues in Indiana. They should not be looking for things that could come down from the top.
And I'd say it's absolutely outrageous that that's something we're talking about. We're talking about the federal government trying to step into our election process to cheat, to hold on to power. And then the threats, the concern is that basically our legislators are going to be blackmailed and that our voters and constituents are going to be somehow harmed by the federal government. It's outrageous. This is not the way that we run government. This is not the way that things should be happening. And honestly, I think our legislators are strong enough to stand up to bullies like that and say, we're not going to tolerate that. We're not going to be bullied into doing something that we all know in this state house is completely wrong. And the fact that we even have to talk about retaliation because we won't cheat to win more seats for Republicans in Congress is completely outrageous. And frankly, I'd like to see our federal congressmen saying that is unacceptable, because frankly it's their job to make sure that their Hoosier constituents are getting what they need. And the fact that we'd have to worry about something like that, that's just like gangster politics right there, and that's not what should be happening here.
It's Manson family values.
Additional signatures. What message do you ultimately hope this sends to Governor Rod and lawmakers?
They report to Hoosiers, right? They don't report to the federal government or J.D. Vance or any of these people. They report to Hoosiers, and Hoosiers have made it abundantly clear that they do not want to see this happen and that they ought to get back to work on the issues that impact folks' everyday lives. Folks are struggling right now, and paying attention to anything else, especially petty politics, to be able to hold on to power is just not what Hoosiers want to see happening right now.
Megan, on the political side of this, I want to put this in perspective. Yet, all this going on right now, very unpopular in every poll that we've both seen. But also you had sort of the No Kings rallies in and across Indiana this weekend. And if you remember back in 2007, there was a lot of property tax protesting that people didn't take seriously. And the next thing you know, Greg Ballard is elected mayor. Could you see 2025 being a repeat of 2007?
I think there will be political consequences in 2026 for the actions that they're taking right now. And frankly, the reason they're going through all of this and trying to change the maps is because there's going to be political consequences for members of Congress right now. They wouldn't have to come to Indiana to try to squeeze more Republican districts out of our state if they were passing policies that people around the country supported. Right. This is about winning seats in Indiana because folks in other states can't get reelected because their policies aren't popular. That's lunacy, and I really just can't understand why, after all of the conversations and all of the contacts that have been made, this is even a possibility that they're thinking about doing it here.
So you have, I said no common cause. Guys get involved in politics per se, but are you kind of seeing the same thing? If these guys, do this along with the No Kings rally, that this could be consequences not just for congressmen but also for statewide elected officials and sort of awaken that sleeping giant at 30th and Central and Center Township?
Well, I think so. You were talking about taking voting rights away from a significant chunk of Hoosiers. And so definitely, I think you will release a very angry electorate here in Marion County and up in Northwest Indiana. You don't mess with people's voting rights, and that's exactly what they're doing, particularly the black community. It hasn't been that long ago that Jim Crow laws were in place. I'm very privileged that I always, every election year, get to go on WTLC radio and their call-in show. And so I talk to older black voters who remember what they went through to get the right to vote in our country. So if you want to set off an angry electorate, then try to to redistrict them out of their representation in Congress. I do think the flashpoint on this could be significant. So again, they've had plenty of warning that this is not something Hoosier voters support. So again, the only support for this is coming from Washington, D.C. So listen to Hoosiers. Just say no to mid-cycle redistricting. It's really very simple, and that's the best way to get them off their back, get these pushy salesmen off the porch, slam the door in their face.
Madam League of Women Voters?
I would agree with everything that Julie has just said. There is no way for a nonpartisan organization like the League to support mid-cycle redistricting. It's not being done in a fair manner. It's going to remove the opportunity for voters to have their voices heard, and it is going to deny Hoosiers the kind of representation that we need. The two areas that are going to be redistricted that currently are held by Democrats would remove the votes and the voices from people in those areas, and it would be offending the voices of African Americans, blacks, of some of our immigrants who have become naturalized citizens. We are looking at an effort to silence voters in Indiana if this is done, and that's not a fair way to handle it.
Any other questions?
So what do you think about J.D. Vance having to come here twice to convince a supermajority to redistrict?
I mean, again, I think it tells me that the legislators don't want to do it. And Governor Braun said he's going to do right by Hoosiers. He's going to listen to legislators. It does not seem like the message is being received, which is why we're here for a second time, to make sure that Hoosiers are being represented.
Well, and I would say I'm very proud of our legislators. I mean, we didn't fold like Texas. We didn't fold like Missouri. You know, Trump said jump, they said how high. Indiana hasn't done that. So I credit the legislative leadership for their hesitancy to do this. And again, I think they know it's wrong. And so it is not a Hoosier value to not play fair, to not play by the rules. And so, again, I think that it's really Governor Braun who really wants this to happen for whatever reason, but let's put the legislature where they need to be, and that's in charge of the maps, and there's no reason to draw new ones.
Can somebody talk about the signatures? Where are they from? Are they from all across the state, all 92 counties, Republicans, Democrats, Independents? Give us some stats on the signatures.
Yes, so it's all 92 counties. Every House seat, every Senate district is represented. And, you know, we have numbers from, kind of lower numbers from, we've got some small counties here in Indiana, right? To some counties going up to almost as high as 2,400 signatures. And so it's a wide spread of folks. I mean, I haven't run party numbers on any of that, but, you know, I've heard from a lot of Republicans saying, we don't want to do this, and this isn't really how, you know, kind of the folks who have been around in the Republican Party for a while, the party of purpose kind of slogan that they've kind of had as a mantle. They don't think this is the right thing to do, and so we are hearing a lot from Republicans. I mean, you know, former Republican Governor Mitch Daniels has come out against this. Former Speaker of the House Brian Bosma has come out against this. These are not folks who are not known to be conservative. It's really a conservative principle that, you know, we're going to do things the right way. We're not going to have court cases, and we don't cheat. And so we're hearing a lot from folks that they're very fired up about this. And you know, I've worked on advocacy campaigns and political campaigns for a long time. 20,000 folks signing on to do something is a huge number.
Thank you.
And we'll